Health Conference sponsored by Project Aware, the Delaware Department of Education, Nemours Children's Hospital, and the Capital School District. But before we get started, I want to acknowledge that this program is being held on the traditional lands of the Lenape Hokie. Thank you. People's land, and let us pay our respects to the elders, past and present. Chris, can you stop the music? Thank you. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and esteemed colleagues, welcome to the third biannual state conference focused upon the social determinants of health. We are gathered here to explore, discuss, and address the profound influence of social, economic, and environmental factors that impact the well-being and health of individuals and the quality of life of communities. The social determinants of health represent a powerful force shaping our world, affecting the quality of life, longevity, and overall health of populations across the globe. These determinants encompass a wide spectrum of conditions ranging from housing to access to education, nutritious food, economic opportunities, and safety within our communities. This afternoon, we aim to delve deep into the complex web of factors that underlie health disparities, inequalities, recognizing that health is not solely the result of individual choices, but unequivocally linked to the environment in which we live, work, and age. We will hear from experts in the field who are leading the change in addressing these challenges. The goal of our Let's Talk About It session is to inspire, drive changing, fostering collaboration between sectors and driving policy innovation, and of course empowering individuals and the communities to thrive. Together we aspire to pave a way for a healthier and more equitable future for all. We thank you for joining us in this crucial endeavor, as we are confident that the insights and initiatives that emerge from this conference will make a profound impact on the way we understand and address social determinants of health. So, I would like to take this moment to welcome someone very, very special. Of course, it is our beloved Lieutenant Governor, Dr. Bethany Hall Long, and it's okay to applaud. I'm going to read our Lieutenant Governor's bio. Dr. Bethany Hall Long has served as Delaware's 26th Lieutenant Governor since 2017. A lifelong nurse, nationally recognized research scientist, and highly qualified policymaker. Dr. Long has deep experience bringing people together to find common sense solutions for Delaware's families and communities. She previously served in the Delaware House of Representatives from 2002 to 2008, and in Delaware Senate from 2008 to 2017. Born and raised in Sussex County on her family farm, she graduated from Indian River High School, where she met her beloved husband, a U.S. Navy veteran, the first in her family to graduate from college. Bethany earned a bachelor's in nursing from Thomas Jefferson University, her master's in nursing from the Medical University of South Carolina, and her PhD in nursing and health administration from George Mason University. She went on to educate thousands of Delaware students as a professor of nursing and urban affairs and public policy at the University of Delaware. And her work reduce health inequities, and has received national recognition. As Lieutenant Governor and a proud mom, our very own Bethany has focused on strengthening working families and expanding opportunities for all Delawareans, regardless of their background. She's been working to develop pathways to good-paying jobs, opening more STEM careers to women, and championing legislation that levels the playing field for small businesses. As chair of the Delaware Early Learning Advisory Committee, she's led solutions to make childcare more affordable and accessible to more families. And through her leadership with the Behavioral Health Consortium, Dr. Long brought together law enforcement, health professionals, and community advocates to tackle the mental health and opioids crisis head-on, creating the nation's first overdose system of care and working to ensure our most vulnerable residents have the housing, food, and job support they need to sustain recovery. Additionally, Bethany lends her expertise and leadership on various national committees. She is national co-chair of Million Women Mentors and a past chair of the National Lieutenant Governors Association. She also serves as Delaware's sole representative for the National Institute for Innovation in Manufacturing and Biopharmaceuticals. Bethany's work, research, and accomplishments focused on finding real solutions for Delaware's families every single day. Without any delay, please stand and give her a round of applause as we welcome our very own beloved Lieutenant Governor, Dr. Bethany Hall Long.
I'm going to keep her pink lipstick on my face the rest of the day. Thank you. That would be good for the rumors. I just want to thank you. Let's give it up. Isn't she a remarkable superintendent? You missed your opportunity as an MC. The longer she spoke, the more red I felt in my face. But it is a pleasure to be here. I cannot thank you enough. There's other places we could be this afternoon, but we've got a remarkable group of panelists and others who are going to follow me. And I just have to say that being raised, as you mentioned, on the family farm with a bunch of faith leaders, we all come together around the mantra of to whom much is given, much is expected. And as I look around this room, I think I know a majority of you, and you have given so much to so many, and so many times. What's the most important thing to me is when nobody's looking, when there aren't cameras, when there isn't a crowd. It's those quiet moments when you are interacting with our families and our students. Parental liaisons, we have a few here. How many are parents? Show of hands, I know a few parents. And how many of you are teachers, faculty, and how many of you are in the health professions? And the others? We've come together because that is what the collective village of behavioral health is really about. And so today, as you buckle up, as you're going to hear from different presenters around social determinants, they really matter. I started my morning with school nurses. There were 300 nurses at the University of Delaware, and we were talking about population public health. And I am uber competitive with you all. I want Delaware to be the place people live, work, and raise their family. Schools and the Department of Ed, and to Terry and Cassandra and others across our state agencies, we have as a mission, right, to provide that social determinant structure that is necessary, and at the foundation of everything we should do, it's the foundation in my office, is the E word, equity. Because we are only as strong as we are among all of our people. And so today, as you go through these sessions, and I know Dr. Perry looked great. I love the book that was included in our packet. It is really so important that we not underestimate one word, two words, your kindness, your interaction with children and families, and making sure that people recognize that behavioral health is a right. Mental health is the same as physical health. And I know many of you have championed legislation with us through the years to make sure that we have parity and access. I will tell you, my best days are as an undercover lieutenant governor. I love when I'm on the streets because it is there where I see why we do what we do. And we're doing some great things in Delaware. I am not a naysayer, I am a glass is half full. We have more work to do, and thanks to the department, thanks to other legislators who've been leaders in our House, our Speaker of the House, and others in the Senate, to champion mental health services in our schools, working with Terry and others here, and Ms. Brown, thank you all for what you do every day. So I came today to basically level set and say we are only as good as the least among us, and as much as we work collectively, we have to be number one in this country. All eyes are on Delaware. You know, I got a call from Patrick Kennedy this week. I'm meeting with U.S. Secretaries in SAMHSA. People watch what we do here. They watch our education system, they watch our social supports, and as I look at our Family Nurse Partnership out here with, Ms. Olson, we know it happens at the doorstep. I can tell you when I'm out in the community, when I'm looking at transportation, when I'm looking at housing, I'm looking at food security, it is all not only about the structure that we provide in our education system, but the tentacles that you reach out to. So when you're sitting in your classroom, and Ms. Ho, when you're working and you're doing the basic needs closets with me in the schools, you know that it matters, that when you send that child home with that backpack, with food, with resources, it comes collectively together. And as Dr. Kate, as you were saying, it is really, truly more than our genetic code. When I went into health professions 40 years ago, we spent a lot of time talking about the genetic code. You know what it is now? It is the zip code. The zip code has replaced the genetic code, and that's what we have to really pay close attention to. When I go out as a lieutenant governor undercover, every third door at a motel room are children, as you all know, in a motel room. No kitchen, no refrigerator, a microwave, a sink, and 4 or 5 other children sleeping around them in the floor. And those are real challenges, and you all are stepping up. So I just want you to know you're valued, you're appreciated. I cannot thank you enough, and I wanted to be here in person to say, let's get this show going, let's buckle up, let's learn together, and let's really continue to make Delaware the place people want to live, work, and raise a family, because we have the whole person, the whole zip code, and all of that analyzed. And the final thing, I wasn't planning on saying this, but I looked at the title of the book, and it says what, love in the title? What is it? Born to Love. And I will tell you what I have discovered in my 7 years of chairing the Board of Pardons, where I give people second chances. 80% of those, maybe 90%, come before me from a juvenile experience where they didn't have the support. You are changing lives, what you do every day. Because I have learned at that board that love people love and hate people hate. And so Born to Love and what you do here today is going to make a huge difference. So I just say, let's get the show going. I can't wait to hear. You all are going to have a great afternoon, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Hull. Turn back to the previous slide, please, Chris. Lieutenant Governor Paul Long has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to addressing critical issues that impact the lives of Delawareans, including mental health, education, and healthcare. Since assuming office, she has made these issues a top priority. Lieutenant Governor Paul Long played a pivotal role in the creation of Delaware's first behavioral health consortium. This consortium represents a diverse and dedicated group of individuals, including community advocates, law enforcement professionals, healthcare experts, and state leaders, all of whom share a common mission: to find tangible solutions to combat the challenges surrounding mental health, substance use, and co-occurring disorders. Serving as the chair of the Behavioral Health Consortium, Lieutenant Governor Paul Long has shown exceptional leadership by driving efforts to reduce the stigma associated with these critical issues. Her work has extended to expanding access to essential treatment, as well as promoting prevention and education efforts. Through these endeavors, Lieutenant Governor Paul Long has actively worked to enhance the well-being of the people of Delaware, fostering a sense of hope and recovery in the face of these complex and deeply impactful challenges. Her dedication to these causes exemplifies her commitment to the betterment of her community and serves as a testament to the positive change that can be achieved through collaborative and strategic efforts. Lieutenant Governor Hall Long was instrumental in establishing basic needs closets in 43 high-needs schools across Delaware, which represents a transformative and compassionate effort to support the state's students. Recognizing that access to essential basic needs is vital for student success, this initiative underscores Dr. Long's commitment to the well-being of Delaware's youth. Basic needs closets serve as lifelines for elementary and middle school students, providing them with free products such as hygiene products, school supplies, and clothing that are essential for their day-to-day lives. By ensuring that students have access to these fundamental necessities, Lieutenant Governor Hall Long is not only removing obstacles that hinder learning, but is also nurturing an environment where every child can effectively participate in the educational process. This initiative reflects a deep commitment to equity and the belief that every student, regardless of their background, deserves the opportunity to thrive and succeed in school. It is with great pride and admiration that we bestow the 2023 Biennial State Behavioral Health Conference Equity Champion Award upon Lieutenant Governor Bethany Hall Long. Her remarkable dedication and unwavering commitment to advocacy have not only transformed lives, but have also ignited a beacon of hope for the most vulnerable among us. In honoring Lieutenant Governor Hall Long, we recognize her relentless efforts in dismantling the barriers that have stood as impediments to those in need. Her tireless advocacy is helping to shatter the stigma that too often surrounds mental health and has allowed marginalized individuals to regain their voice, their dignity, and their rightful place in society. As an equity champion, Lieutenant Governor Bethany Hall Long serves as an exemplar of the transformative change that is possible when individuals are dedicated to creating a more equitable, just, and compassionate world. We salute her, for her remarkable achievements, her compassion, and her unyielding determination to make a difference. Thank you, Dr. Bethany.
Thank you very much. I did not know about this to the last minute. Thank you to my staff. How they ever kept a secret from me is very hard to do. But this goes to everybody who's been part of my team. There is no I in team, and this is to everyone in Delaware. Let's really fight for equity. And thank you so much. And I really thought I was going to get y'all caught up on time. And now you read that long statement, so you're not on time. But thank you all. This really means a lot to me. And I really do think the most important thing a public servant can do is elevate the least among us. And that's what you all do each and every day. Thank you. Thank you.
We are thrilled to kick off our first Let's Talk About It session, an exciting part of today's conference where we have the privilege of hosting 6 distinguished speakers who will share their knowledge, insights, and personal experiences related to social determinants of health, TED Talk style. Each speaker has been tasked with developing a powerful presentation aimed at shedding light on the intricate aspects of social determinants of health. These talks will not only provide you with valuable research, best practices, and lived experiences, but will also serve as a call to action. Our shared mission today is to gain a deeper understanding of these determinants and the systemic barriers that often hinder individuals from accessing the resources and services they need for a life that is not only healthy and safe, but is thriving. It is our hope that through the wisdom and insight shared today, we will each leave this session with a renewed commitment to recognizing and dismantling the systemic barriers that stand in the way of creating a world where everyone can thrive regardless of their background or circumstance. The QR code on the screen will allow you to read the bios of our presenters, so please take note of that. At this time, please welcome to the stage our first speaker, Ms. Karen Records, Chief of Social Determinants for Delaware's Division of Substance Use and Mental Health. Ms. Records will share strategic methods to address social determinants of health and equity within the adult behavioral health landscape.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Records, and I do serve as the Chief of Social Determinants for the Delaware Department of Health and Social Services, Division of Substance Abuse and Mental Health. I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to speak during this Let's Talk About It session. Today I shall provide an overview of Delaware's adult behavioral health system infrastructure and highlight a few of the Division of Substance Abuse and Mental Health strategies to advance behavioral health equity and support services addressing social determinants of health. This slide represents a snapshot of the national and Delaware data sets surrounding behavioral health, and the information is rather alarming. Now more than ever, it is critical that we come together to address the need for equitable services. If we want to be data-driven, we have to pay attention to these numbers and bring partners to the table that have relationships with the consumers that we serve. We at the Division of Substance Abuse and Mental Health are committed to doing our part to ensure that lives are saved and recovery is possible for all Delawareans. The Division of Substance Abuse and Mental Health, or DSAM, is located in the Department of Health and Social Services. DSAM serves the adult population for persons in need of publicly funded behavioral health services. DSAM is comprised of the offices of the medical director and the division director and 4 operating units: the Delaware Psychiatric Center, Community Behavioral Health and Social Determinants Bureau, Policy Compliance and Workforce Development Bureau, and the Research Evaluation and Population Health Bureau. Under the leadership of our division director, Joanna Champney, DSAM's mission is to promote health and recovery by ensuring that Delawareans have access to quality prevention and treatment for mental health, substance use, and gambling conditions. Strategically, DSAM is dedicated to creating a diversified, aligned, and effective person-centered behavioral health ecosystem. The following slides that I'll be showing shortly will represent some of the programs, services, and quality improvement measures that we are doing to advance behavioral health equity and social determinants of health. First, as an organizational strategy, DSAM created the Social Determinants Branch. So our unit is designed to address social determinants of health through a community-based lens of integrated recovery supports. The types of services we oversee include peer support, supportive housing, employment, food security, and transportation. And anyone interested in a complete overview of the services available can reach out to us. I have in the final slide our contact email address. I want to highlight one of social determinants programs, and that is the Community Wellbeing Ambassador Program. Community Wellbeing Ambassador Program is a community-driven, place-based prevention strategy designed to promote community well-being and resiliency in primarily Black and Brown communities among individuals who may not seek formal services by providing connection to behavioral health treatment, recovery support services, and opioid-related overdose prevention. The intent is to address the trauma and toxic stress that community members may have experienced and have been exacerbated by the opioid epidemic. It's through an initiative that is of, by, and for the community members it is intended to serve. And a review of fatal and non-fatal overdose, COVID-19, and drug arrest activity data, DSAM identified zip codes in Wilmington, Dover, and other select surrounding areas and major crises to launch the program. We currently partner with the University of Delaware, Delaware State University, Network Connect, Minds in Motion, the Wilmington Community Advisory Council, along with several other grassroots coalitions, educational institutions, healthcare sectors, community organizations, and other state partners. Within the Community Behavioral Health and Social Determinants Substance Use Disorder and Transition Services branch, the Bridge Clinic's mission is to promote health and well-being by educating about, promoting awareness of, and bringing access to services that can make a difference. The Bridge Clinics offer fast access to services for substance use and mental health disorders. The Bridge Clinics are an evidence-based program founded from the National Alliance for Model State Drug Laws Model Act for Overdose Stabilization and Warm Handoff Centers. The Bridge Clinics offer walk-in services, including treatment, initiation, short-term acute outpatient services, and peer support. Treatment referrals are for adults 18 and older, regardless of insurance or ability to pay. The clinics also offer medications for opioid use disorder therapies, including induction and continuation of buprenorphine and Vivitrol. The Mobile Bridge is an extension of the bricks and mortar Bridge Clinics. Services are provided to recently released individuals from Baylor's Women's Correctional Facility and the Howard R. Young Men's Correctional Facility. Mobile Bridge provides a variety of outreach, screening, and referral activities. Next, under the Office of the Director's Executive Programs and Grants Administration, 8 agencies received mini grant awards of up to $50,000 each from the State Opioid Response Health Equity Advancement Project, HEAP, to engage in foundational activities that could be implemented to rapidly better understand, engage, and address the needs of racial and ethnic minorities with opioid use disorder and stimulant use disorder. These awardees included All Therapy, Brandywine Counseling Community Services, Fair Chance, Lorette Health Center, Locust Recovery Centers, Love and Hope Rescue Mission, and the National Panhellenic Council of Newcastle County. Under the HEAP Community Education and Awareness Initiative partnership, we have partnered with 7 organizations that will receive support and technical assistance with either holding opioid awareness campaigns or developing other messaging campaigns for communities of color. The following organizations will receive support by our partner at the communications firm 720 Strategies. Some of these organizations are also mini grant awardees. These organizations include the Center for Structural Equity, One Step at a Time Foundation, Hope on Deck, Mother African Union Church, Love and Hope Rescue Mission, Impact Life, and Courageous Hearts. In addition to the rising disproportionate number of racial minorities affected by opioids, we know that the LGBTQIA+ individuals also face additional barriers when seeking treatment. And so this aspect of health equity and opioid use disorder treatment is also a concern. DSAM is very thankful to collaborate with The Peaceful Place, a state opioid response partner organization that provides primary care and medications for opioid use disorder in an environment that actively welcomes and affirms all sexual and gender orientations. Lastly, as a community of care measure, quality of care measure, DSAM's partnering with Bamboo Health and Find Help to build a system to facilitate the delivery of care across multiple agencies caring for clients with behavioral health disorders. Behavioral health care coordination bridges the gap between behavioral and physical health to facilitate better health outcomes and provides a more efficient use of healthcare resources. The Delaware Treatment and Referral Network DTRAN 360 application will help organizations identify, track, and better assist clients by removing the barriers of care around social, economic, and behavioral determinants of health. DTRAN 360 will connect health and social service providers to address the social determinants of health and deliver more integrated care. And this slide, we wanted to show you how it illustrates how the DTRAN 360 application will interface with a variety of health information technology and what services we'll be able to utilize in the future. Lastly, in all my presentations, I'd like to provide resources for those in need. And then finally, for all those attending, here are a few opportunities on how to access free naloxone training and opioid rescue kits, information on how to receive free training on cultural and linguistic improvements, and contact information for those wishing to be a partner on our VTran e-referral platform. Again, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to present on all the resources we have to advance health equity and social determinants of health. And again, here's my contact information if you would like further information on the division strategies. Thank you so much.
Let's give her another round of applause, please. Thank you, Ms. Records. We appreciate the resources that you have shared. For our next speaker, Ms. Kiara McGilvray. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist and the Chief Program Officer for School-Based Initiatives with Children and Families First. She'll be speaking on equitable and thriving communities, a path to success. Ms. McGilvray.
Good afternoon, everyone. Oops. All right, giving you a taste of what's to come. All right, after a long day of work, I attended the Healthy Community Dollar Dinner in Seaford. It is one of the many events our program puts on. I left feeling invigorated. There were over 50 people from the local area in attendance to share a meal together. We dined with folks we did not know. Children helped carry out the meals to attendees, and we all genuinely got to know one another. Why, at 9 at night, did I feel more energetic than all day? Last year, I helped break down chicken at a local church in Seaford, where it is donated monthly by a local farm. Why am I looking forward to going back to the raw chicken juices next month to do it all over again? It wasn't until a few weeks ago when my husband shared a story about trees that it clicked. Did you know trees can talk to one another? Trees can actually communicate with one another through an underground fungal network by sending and receiving chemical messages to signal defense, recognize kin, and share resources. Trees are alerted to new seedlings needing carbon and water and neighboring plants under distress. Through this fungal network, they share resources to ensure a thriving forest. Research shows these relationships mutually benefit the trees and other species. Trees don't need to supply energy to their roots to grow deep for nutrients, but instead can funnel that energy to leaf mass. How can we, as organizations, take and adapt that concept and work as a team to better the community so it becomes a point of resilience for the families who live there? When organizations work in silos and from a scarcity mindset, roots grow deep to secure resources, but communities are stunted and inequities persist. We cannot address the issues in our neighborhoods, schools, and communities with one single solution. System shift occurs through collaboration and multi-solving. Just like our forests, when organizations share their expertise and resources, we can address problems more efficiently. Multi-solving is a path to a more sustainable community. It is the idea of a cohesive network communicating and working together across sectors to impact multiple systemic issues with one investment. At Children and Families First, we have seen firsthand the benefits of multi-solving through our Seaford Community of Hope and Community Schools programs. With one investment by Casey Family Programs in 2019, Seaford Community of Hope began its cross-sector initiative to increase protective factors in families and address social determinants of health in a local neighborhood. We partnered with Sussex County Health Coalition and First State Community Action Agency, sharing time, funding, and expertise. Since then, national, statewide, and local organizations have continued to make investments. University of Delaware Cooperative Extension provides nutritional programming for families and created accessible community garden boxes. Food Bank of Delaware supports food distribution regularly, and the Western Sussex Boys and Girls Club donates space for community dinners every month. This represents a small fraction of the organizations working together in Seaford for systemic change. We have been able to address food insecurity, increase access to basic needs for health and safety, and build community belonging and social connection. Now, we still have a long way to go, but through partnerships and sharing of resources, we have moved the needle in the right direction. Our Community Schools program echoes these sentiments, with districts and partners coming together to mitigate the factors outside of school that create inequities in schools. Our partnerships with Lutheran Community Services and Christiana Care supported the Community Schools program to renovate the food closet at Stubbs Early Learning Center and provide commercial fridges and freezers for other schools. In addition, these two partners are providing instructional curriculum and food targeted towards families who could benefit from a healthier diet due to health-related concerns. This is just one example of how Children and Families First staff, school building staff, district leadership, and community partners are working together to integrate student supports, expand learning opportunities in and out of the classroom, and engage the community for better student outcomes. So, whether you are a school district, a state organization, or a nonprofit, invite the experts into the room. Welcome partners across sectors to join in on the conversation and share ideas. It is the partnership and connection that supports thriving communities, resilient families, and the enthusiastic professionals who support the work. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Angie Bevins, Outreach Manager with Franklin Energy. The title of the talk, The Weight of Energy Burden on Health.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. So I am super excited to be in front of you today. Number one, I just want to say it is October and it is Energy Awareness Month, so this couldn't have came at a better time for me. But let's start here. Boom. What is this? Don't answer. All right, I'm sure you know. But as I said that, if I really did put it out there and I began to ask, what is this? I'd get a lot of different responses. Some of you would say it's an energy bill. Others in the back might say it's a utility bill. Some of you would probably begin to use four-letter words that we can't use here. All right, let's not get too creative and out of control. I don't need to get in trouble behind this. But how you meant this is usually how you feel about it now. For example, some may have first heard of an energy bill at a young age when your parents were like, turn the lights off. I gotta pay the energy bill. Yes, I'm hearing amens and seeing the head nods. Love it. All right, some of you may have not heard about it until you were an adult and you got your very first place. And then you were like, someone over at the utility company hates me. All right, but for a lot of people, this is how they see their utility bill every month. Why, you might ask? There's a term in our field called an energy burden. Energy burden. Now, there is some really strenuous math involved with figuring out an energy burden, so I wanted to put it up on the screen. Brace yourselves as educators. I know, it's hard, right? Okay, so I'm gonna show you how, I'm being sarcastic, I'm gonna show you how we do an energy burden, or the math to figure it out. You're gonna take your annual usage, and anyone can do this, take your annual usage and it's divided by your yearly income. So, for example, a family may have a household annual bill of $2,000 a month, but they're making $200,000 a year. I'm sorry, I meant year. $2,000 a year, making $200,000 a year. The math to that, their energy burden would be 1%. And that's generally what we see in non-low-income households. The energy burden is generally around 3%. But for some that need the most help, for our most vulnerable populations, it's usually not that amount. That same $2,000 a year energy bill for a family making $20,000 a year jumps up to 10%. And unfortunately, that is what we see in a lot of these households, especially the disadvantaged ones, that their energy burden is 3 times the amount of a non-low-income household. So who is this heavily affecting? I'm so sorry to say that these weights, again, are going to the disadvantaged folks that need the most assistance. Who am I talking about? It's going to be the elderly and the disabled population that have more of a challenging time keeping up with the upkeep of their home. It's going to be for those that are on fixed incomes, especially the low-income households. It's going to be against those that are renting and they don't have control of the condition of the house. Those that live in communities of color that have been disadvantaged and historically marginalized when upgrades happened in other communities to provide more clean and safe housing. These are the individuals and the households, including older and manufactured homes, that are dealing with these high energy burdens. So why am I bringing this to you today? Why am I telling you about it? Not just because some of you may actually be dealing with it, but because everyone deserves to live in the beautiful household you're seeing to the far side of the screen. But unfortunately, for disadvantaged households, those weights that I was talking about tend to be piled onto the household. And it takes 2 major effects onto households when they're dealing with high energy burdens. The first effect is financial. Now, because of the burden of the utility bill, I'm constantly choosing between, is it medicine or paying the energy bill? Is it food or making sure the lights are on? Do I send my child to daycare or do I try to figure out something else? These are choices that should not have to be made. Having utility, having energy, being able to turn your lights on is a necessity for everyone. But for too many households, this is a monthly choice that is negatively not only weighing upon the household's income, but then it just trickles right down to the household's health. How does this affect the health of households? Let's talk about it just a little bit for a second. So, now, for example, we talked about our elderly households earlier. What happens with a lot of elderly individuals, and I'm going to talk about my own lovely grandparents for a minute, right? They get a little chilly in the house. First thing they want to do is turn up the heat, right? This is natural. But if they're not able to turn up the heat for whatever reason, can't afford the bill, or maybe, as we talked about earlier, the conditions of the house are not the house is not very insulated. There could be a leaky roof. There could be drafty windows. All of this adds to the burden, takes away from the comfort of the home. And now we see an increase in ER visits when an individual begins to feel more sick in the wintertime. Another example I've seen happen way too often is a family that can't afford during the summer months to pay the utility bill, or they're not running the AC to save money, and there's a child in the household with asthma. What does that do, right? Also to add to this, we've got if you have any chronic illnesses, right? Not being able to be comfortable in your home, again, is going to increase that. Not even counting the mental stress every month of getting this bill and shouting out one of those 4-letter words that we're not supposed to say. All right? So lastly, unfortunately, it continues a cycle of poverty. When you live in a home and this is the condition you have to look at every day. These are the windows that feel like they're caving in on you. This is the ceiling you feel hopeless, like you can't do anything about. It becomes even more of a challenge for these families and increases the need for additional health services. But you see, I am not a negative person. So I'd like to tell you on today, there is hope. I know that's right. All right, there is hope, and there are ways around it. So let's talk about some of the things that can be done to help these households. First and foremost is community engagement and education. If you can't tell, it's the love of my life. So with community engagement and education, what this means is that now we are going to these communities and telling them what can be done for their homes. Prime example, my mom, I love her so much, I thought, please no one here tell her, I thought she was an incredibly tacky decorator when I was a kid. We're gonna talk about why. But I thought she was incredibly tacky because every winter she would go get trash bags and she'd get scotch tape or duct tape and she'd begin to put it up over all the windows. And I see some head nods, you know what I'm talking about. And she'd cover these windows. So as a child, I'm like, I didn't understand. I'm like, oh my God, I can't have friends over because we have trash bag windows. But what she was doing was she was keeping the heat in the home. This is now a term that once you're educated, we all know is weatherization, right? But now when I go into communities and I'm teaching these things, I'm able to tell why you want to do that, how the proper ways to do it, and many other tips. So for anyone that's interested in how this can be brought to your community, quick shout out to Energize Delaware. Feel free to look us up online. That's energizedelaware.org. So sorry for the shameless plug, but we are a nonprofit. All right, so with that, we're going into the communities, we're providing education and meeting these individuals where they are. We also offer online services. The one thing I hear when someone comes to my workshop, and I'm gonna talk really quickly about little Miss Linda, who was on one of my virtual workshops just the other day. She said, oh my God, this is so amazing. Why aren't there more people here to learn about this? I said, because Miss Linda, they don't know yet. So tell everybody you know. Okay, along with that, a few other things that can be done are LMI programs, specifically for repairs, retrofits, and weatherization. We currently have these programs in the state. Just really quickly, raise your hand if you've ever heard of the Weatherization Assistance Program, also known as WAP. All right, there's also the LAHEAP program. There's programs available through social services and a lot of the nonprofits like First State Community Action. So these are out there, but we have to make sure that everyone knows they're available. So share the word, tell someone else, or look them up if you know someone in need of help. And there's additional funding coming through the state to keep us on point, or to give additional monies to disadvantaged communities, specifically because they were overlooked for so long. Now, a few other things I want to quickly mention as I wrap it up here are partnerships between utilities and CBOs. CBOs are those community organizations, again, like the Cheer Center, different places that are right in your community, and nonprofits. So making sure the utilities are working with them to help those that need these services the most. I just want to tell you guys, I know somebody's going to say they don't believe me, but Delmarva Power and Delaware Electric Co-op and all of the other utilities are not the devil, all right? They are not trying to kill everyone. But this is a problem that can be solved by working with them. Lastly, combining energy efficiency with renewable energy services. This is not something that is often thought about for our disadvantaged community, but it can be done, people. There are programs for low-income solar right now in the state. So if you don't know about that, please feel free to get with me. There's also programs that we're working on to bring community solar specifically to these communities. So as we work together, we can combat this. But my call to action for you today is not to ignore your utility bill and pretend it's not there. Know it's there. Begin to look at these programs so that if you meet anyone that needs assistance or if you yourself need some assistance, you know where to go. So have some great energy on today, everybody, and thank you.
Thank you, Angie. Whew, that energy is contagious. Love it. I have the pure pleasure to introduce speaker number 4, Khalil. Khalil is the Executive Director, MIST Ops Incorporated, Outpatient Program Supervisor, RI, International South, and DOC Facilitator of Victim Voices Heard. Title of the talk is Black Boy Lost. Please welcome Khalil.
Good afternoon. I don't know how I'm gonna follow that energy, but I will try. First, I'd like to say thank you for the invite. I appreciate this opportunity. It's one that I don't take for granted. As you know, my name is Khalil. I represent your most challenging students, and this is my story. At the age of 17, I was charged, incarcerated for murder in the first degree and possession of a deadly weapon during the commission of a felony. I was sentenced to life without parole plus 5 years. Prior to January 1990, I was an honor roll student, avid reader, I was into nature, I was in Boy Scouts. This is me getting my arrow of light. School was my sanctuary. These are the things that I did. I wasn't in trouble. I wasn't running the streets. Both my parents were married. My mother worked 2 jobs, had to work 2 full-time jobs, making minimum wage to keep a roof over her heads. My father worked full-time for Wilmington Housing Authority, and he went to school at night. So you ask, how did it happen? How did someone coming from a 2-parent home where both parents worked, honor student, how did I go from this, to this, to this? This is a question that not one teacher, educator, or anyone I came in contact with asked when things begin to change. January 28th, 1990, my father was murdered. As I said, he worked for the Wilmington Housing Authority. He wasn't into drugs. He wasn't running the streets. He was using a payphone, and someone shot him and took his life. The last image I had of my father is him laying on the ground with a hole in his chest. It completely broke me. I was 14 years old. From that point forward, my life changed in a whole different direction. I battled depression. I was an alcoholic by the age of 16. I became violent, very angry. I was a teenage father. I was expelled from school. I dealt drugs. I ran the very streets that my parents tried to keep me out of. Many of you are familiar with the ACEs study. So one of the things I've learned in taking the ACEs test is my ACEs score is a 5, right? When you start talking about adverse childhood experiences, the trauma that I experienced as a child, the physical abuse from my mother, the addiction of my family, the murder of my father, my ACEs score would be a 5 if I took that test today. So this is me. mental health, how it was impacted, death of my father, my trauma history, the untreated depression, the undiagnosed PTSD, no clinical intervention. It would take me 24 years of incarceration before the DOC would either assess, diagnose, or even acknowledge my depression and PTSD. The behavior, fighting, truancy, dealing drugs, as I said, I was a teenage father, substance abuse, community violence, 2 suicide attempts before the age of 16. Lack of positive adult influences. Many of the adults in my community, many of the adults in my life, they used me once I began to sell drugs. They used me just to get drugs. No one ever bothered to ask what happened or what was wrong. No community support or intervention. I grew up in the hilltop section of Wilmington. It's a very violent and drug-infested community. In school, I was labeled as a thug because of where I was from and the way I dressed. And as I mentioned before, there was no school intervention. There were no guidance counselors. There was no principals or anything. The only intervention I had from school was when they expelled me. As a result of all of these things, it resulted in a life sentence in prison. A four-month picture of my life is simply this. I was kicked out of the house at the age of 16. I turned 17. I was kicked out of high school prior to my senior year, and then I went to prison. That's a 4-month snapshot, and that's exactly how it transpired. While I was in prison, I was determined to identify what led me to prison, because I knew that that's not how my parents raised me. I knew that that's not the life that they wanted for me. I graduated high school. I got an associate's degree in psychology. I began to run programs, take programs. I was the first person and the only inmate in the Department of Corrections that they asked to design a program and would actually pay while I was incarcerated to run the very program. All of that changed June 25th, 2012. That's when the Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional to give a juvenile a natural life sentence. Delaware is one of 9 states where they ruled the law unconstitutional. As a result, I was given a new lease on life. I was given a second opportunity. There was finally hope. On October the 12th, exactly 6 years ago yesterday, after serving 25 years and 27 days, I was released. I was released with a deep found appreciation for my freedom, but an undeniable desire and hunger and determination to overcome any barrier, never to return to prison, and to prevent others from following in my footsteps. So when I talk about these social determinants of health, the very factors that led to my incarceration, I was able to identify and put a plan in place to address when I was released to contribute to my success. Family support, housing, employment, emotional well-being, my faith, my counseling, academic success. In the 6 years since I've been released, I've gotten a bachelor's degree in psychology, a master's in business. I became a certified alcohol and drug counselor, a certified peer support specialist, and a certified supervisor peer specialist. This is a picture of who I am today. As you've heard, I'm the executive director of Miss Ops. I was able to start my own nonprofit. I'm the outpatient program supervisor for RI International in South, and I teach, and I go into the very prisons where I spent my time, and I teach the impact of crime on victims to others in the hopes of reducing victimization in the community. And I've also authored 3 books. My message to you today is that we collectively cannot allow one individual to fall through the cracks. Because in my experience, when we allow an individual to fall through the cracks, it is causing catastrophic and almost irreparable damage to our communities and to families. The thing that I most wanted when I was growing up, going through school after the death of my father, was someone to see me, to listen, and to help me heal. And I tell you today, as you go out to educate the kids that are under you, under your guardianship, that you see them, you listen to them, and help them heal. Thank you.
I feel like we need to take an inhale and an exhale, just taking in that beautiful journey. Thank you so much. We'll now transition to our next speaker, Tracy Murphy. She's the Executive Director of the Delaware Coalition Against Gun Violence. The title of her talk is Swimming Pools, Wildfires, and Gun Violence. Tracy.
Khalid, wow, you set me up. I will say that my story is nothing like Khalid's, and so I'm really honored to be in the same room with him, with our other speakers, and with all of you. Thank you so much. I'm going to see if I can tech myself into the right place. So, fires, pools, cars, guns, they all pose a threat to the safety and the well-being of our children, our homes, our schools, and our communities. But what do they have in common? And what can we learn from fires, pools, cars to apply to the gun violence public health crisis? I'm Tracy Murphy. I run the Delaware Coalition Against Gun Violence, and we are rebranding to become the Coalition for a Safer Delaware. On December 14th, 2012, I had a first grade daughter. When 168 miles to our north, 20 first graders and their caregivers were brutally murdered in a school in Newtown, Connecticut. My own child got off the school bus that day and said her day was boring. And I have been working, learning, and trying to give every child the gift of a boring day ever since. First, this topic can be emotional, and it should be. Tens of thousands of Americans die in our gun violence epidemic each year. Many more are injured physically and experience massive trauma as survivors. Entire communities grieve. Nationally, roughly 2/3 of gun-related deaths are due to suicide and roughly 1/3 homicide. A very, very small percentage are the mass shootings, unintentional shootings, and police-related shootings that we hear about on the news. That's why they are newsworthy. Everyday gun violence, sadly, is not. In Delaware, our gun violence crisis looks a little different than it does nationwide. Our data tells us that Delawareans who die by firearm are roughly 50% due to suicide and 50% homicide. And it's not because we have a lower rate of suicide, but instead we have disproportionately high rates of community gun violence. Imagine if our rate looked more like our neighboring New Jersey. Imagine how many more of our loved ones and neighbors would still be here. What do they know that we don't know? Gun violence is pervasive, and that is largely because we have more guns than people in our country. In our state, we have approximately 150 federally licensed firearm dealers, and that's just the people selling guns legally. We have 48 Wawas. Guns are being sold in every community, everywhere, every day, and they turn up everywhere. Perhaps most alarmingly, many of those privately owned weapons were purchased during times of crisis, most importantly and most impactfully during the early months of the COVID pandemic. And so, it is not surprising that we saw record numbers of homicide and suicide in the years following. Gun deaths among children have increased by 50%.
It's the leading cause of death for children and teens in our nation, and has for a long time been the leading cause of premature death of Black men and boys in our country. Ironically, 72% of gun owners say that protection is a major reason they own a gun, even though the data tells us that more guns don't make us safer. In fact, if guns made us safer, we'd be the safest country in the world. We own 46% of the world's privately owned guns, and we are only 4% of the world's population. It's like if Smokey the Bear told us that only we could put out forest fires, and that we need fire to do it. What if in every elementary school, every year, there was an assembly and a mascot came in and said, here, use this fire to protect your family, yourself, your school, and your friends from fire. Yet that is exactly what the gun industry has done. So how did we get here? Like all public health crises, the road to now is long and winding. We can and should point to structural inequities, ACEs, and the other root causes of gun violence. But specifically in gun violence prevention, we have a few other paths to now as well. First, in 1996, the Dickey Amendment prevented the CDC from using its funding to advocate or promote gun control, which largely shut down research into gun violence in the United States for years. Second, in 2005, Congress passed the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, which provides broad immunity from many lawsuits to the manufacturers, sellers, and importers of qualified products, meaning firearms and ammunition. So in the absence of research on the dangers of firearms and immunity in the industry, which opened the floodgates to innovation, we saw the expected outcome. Innovation in the marketplace to attract new customers, re-engage existing customers with new purchases, and that led to the rising rates of gun ownership coupled with no accountability in the industry. So is it too late? Is the horse out of the barn, as they say? All these guns are out there. We can't possibly solve this crisis. But that's wrong. First, since the CDC has begun conducting research again, we know that there is a time to crime, the amount of time between the retail sale of a firearm and its recovery by law enforcement. ATF considers a time to crime of less than 3 years is a potential indicator of trafficking. So the good news is that the guns that were sold in 2020, in that enormous sales spike at the start of the COVID crisis, have already passed their time to crime. We will see this play out when current rumors of drastic decreases in gun violence are officially reported. Second, oh wait, I'm still on this one. We can learn from so many other industries. Think about pools. There are lifeguards required at public pools, warning signs are posted about safety, life jackets are Coast Guard approved, and all residential pools are required to be fenced so children cannot access them. For good measure, your homeowner's insurance goes up if you have a pool or even a trampoline on your property. That is market-driven accountability. The state of Delaware flies banners over Rehoboth Beach reminding Delawareans to apply their sunscreen. What can we learn from what's happening in other public health crises? Not since E.T. have we seen children riding bikes on the big screen without their helmets on. That's a way that other industries are holding safety accountable. The automobile industry prides itself on safety. Airbag technology is endlessly being improved. Safety ratings are hailed as the top reason someone buys a car. All drivers have to be trained, licensed, and insured. So what's possible when the industry is held accountable? Who knows? But I bet every person in this room has a small, expensive device that can be unlocked by facial recognition or a fingerprint. Accountability in this industry, in the gun industry, will breed innovation as well. And it will happen in Delaware first, because we passed a bill over a year ago to remove the industry's liability shield in our state. In 2015, this tweet made the rounds, and it surfaces again and again. But it's wrong. America did not decide this was a bearable crisis. It's just that change happens slowly. And since that tragedy at Sandy Hook, the gun violence prevention movement has given us the first Gen Z member of Congress who ran on a gun safety platform, the first federal level progress in 3 decades with the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, bipartisan work in the most divided political times and generations, both in Washington and fairly regularly right here in Dover. Perhaps the biggest catalyst for change in the movement are the students marching for their lives. One of those children in that picture is mine. They give me hope, but hope is not a strategy. Good news, we have a strategy here in Delaware to combat the public health crisis that is gun violence. Please join us. Scan our code to find our new website, sign up to join our coalition, and join me. Let's get to work. Thank you.
Thank you all. Our work in school support services is designed to inform the mind and inspire the heart so that the hands are moved to compassionate action. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Dr. Bylesia Cade as she speaks on the topic, Compassionate Actions. Okay, trying to get to my slides, you guys. Okay. As a child, I remember being hungry. I know the swoosh sound that a belly full of water makes. I know what it feels like to have your dignity under attack when your secondhand new outfit is your classmates' donated donation to Goodwill. My tear-stained pillow remembers too. As a child, I didn't have stability. Instead, I had in 12 years of attending 9 different schools, as early as 5 years old, I recall my mom would disappear for days and weeks, leaving my older siblings in charge until the food was gone. At 6 years old, my life changed dramatically when I became a ward of the state. Never again would I live under the guidance of my parents' love, but under the auspices of lingering fear, constant change, and the secret desire to be invisible. Yeah, I had food, but fear lingered, and change was the standard, and each time I had to start all over. Firsthand, I learned why compassionate actions and valued partnerships are needed in our schools, for our children to change our future. It's why parent empowerment programs are so important in community partnerships. It's such an important part of meeting the whole needs of the child. I'll be the first to run to the mountaintop to tell everybody it makes a difference in the future success of our children, especially those who can thrive despite poverty. I forgot I moved my own slides. According to the Children's Defense Fund, 11 million children live in poverty, including 1 in 7 children of color. 1 in 6 children under 5. Black children and teens were 6 times as likely to be killed from gun violence than their white peers. Every day in America, 5 children die of abuse and neglect. 6 teenagers or children are dead because of suicide. 121 children are arrested for violent crimes. 223 are arrested for drug crimes, and 2,906 high school students drop out. 14,206 public school students are suspended. Each day in America, children are waiting to be adopted. Often I ponder how I thrived despite 25 adverse childhood experiences. Today, I look back and I know that it was compassionate actions that changed the trajectory of my life. It's clear now how there were at least one caring adult each journey of my life, whether it was my big sister from the Big Sisters program with the emerald green eyes and the thick red curly locks. Or maybe it was my 6th grade math teacher who told me that I meant something and that I was smart. Or was it my counselor when I saved $5 and he told me, now it's my turn to do my part. And he gave me $6 to buy my first pair of new sneakers. The first pair of new sneakers I received after I left my mommy. I tell you, each time God or the state sent me to a new place, there were angels, people or organizations that ignited hope. There was so many people, names of people I can't remember, compassionate actions that they did to pepper my hopelessness with light. So I stand confidently before you today as an accomplished educational leader who looks to serve the children and the family of this community with compassionate actions. And I'm asking each person to remember that together we are stronger. My success is proof that we can make a difference as individuals, through organizations, to change a child's life, to be a positive influence if we only accept the call to action, to demonstrate compassionate actions for children, for schools, and for our future. I know with certainty that we can find extraordinary success in the outcomes of our schools and our children for our future by incorporating compassionate actions into our school improvement efforts. So in my 6-year-old shaky voice, I'm asking you, will you let my journey be proof? Thank you.
Thank you all so much for joining us for this session. More importantly, please, will you give another hand to our speakers who have shared their hearts? It takes some amazing vulnerability to get up here. And I will tell you, every single time that I hear these stories, I'm super, super moved. And I pray that something you've heard has moved you today to compassionate action so you can go on and be that light, that gift that so many of the young people that we serve need. We have a number of final comments. First of all, I want to thank you all for joining us today.
This was a labor of love, and we have an amazing committee that I'd like to call up to join me in thanking Dr. Jocelyn Brown. Anybody who knows Jocelyn knows that she pours her entire heart into everything that she does. And when she first came with this vision for what today would look like, you know, when you know Jocelyn, you just get on board. You do whatever she asks you to do, and you do your best to make it happen. But nobody works as hard as she does. And so I want to thank her just for being the gift that she's been to Capital School District, but also the gift that she's been to the state. From the time that she joined our state, she was one of my most consistent board partners, and it has been an absolute pleasure to work and learn from her, and just thank her for all that she did to make today happen.
Executive privilege and say, Dr. Brown, as you launch your business and you leave the capital city and the Capital School District, we want you to know that we love you. We wish you the very best. And we look forward to continuing our collaboration with you, and we know that you will soar. So congratulations on your new business.
Yeah, Doc.
We also want to thank you all for coming. We know that, gosh, when there's so many cooks in the kitchen, so many hands, there were a lot of moving parts for this. But you all stuck it out with all of the registration challenges you got here, and we're so glad that you came today. We hope you got something from the day. And we ask you to scan this QR code. I promise it's going to work, to respond to the survey that we have. I do have some instructions just to tell you when you are going into the survey, you need to select, okay, you're not going to select full day. You're going to select 90 minutes because we want you to rate all of the moving parts. We were very intentional in scheduling the day to make sure that we did exactly what Dr. Perry said, that there were layered opportunities for learning and cognitive support while giving you movement and other things to do to help refresh and restore the brain. And so with that, we want you to rate all the sections that were included. And then lastly, I just want to thank you all. I hope you had an opportunity for expanding your understanding of the social determinants of health and the many innovative strategies that are taking place around our state to build community resilience. In 1964, Malcolm X said that when I is replaced with we, even illness becomes wellness. Okay, let that sink in. We get healthy, we get whole in communities. We need each other. And no great thing gets accomplished alone. In the School Support Services Work Group at DOE, we often say that we want kids to feel connected, protected, and respected. But I think Khalil said it best when he mentioned that we want young people to be seen, be heard, and most importantly, our job is to help them heal so they can go out and thrive. Because as much as we talk about, preach about the power of whole children, we want whole child development, you can't have whole children without thriving families and resilient communities. So please, 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 let's go out, take something that you learn, and be the light, pay it forward, give to the young people that we love and serve exactly what you needed to be the person that you are today. Thanks so much, and I look forward to seeing you soon. And your class.
Yeah.